This is the new Fossibot S2 and this is a budget iPhone doppelganger. Hi everyone, this is JD, your gadget review friend. Welcome and welcome back to Gadget Rev Now. I know a lot of people are obsessed with mid-range phones looking like flagship phones. I would always hear it on the comment section that viewers will say, this phone looks like S24 Ultra, iPhone 16 Pro Max, and Vivo X200 Pro. So I'm pretty sure there's a big market for people wanting to get a really good value phone that somehow resembles a flagship competition to make it stand out a little bit more. Fossibot S2 is strikingly similar to iPhone 16 Pro Max when it comes to camera module, even the size, and arguably the power button looks like the camera control button. So today let's talk about what could be your next budget phone, the Fossibot S2. The design is pretty excellent on this phone. This resembles the more expensive iPhone looking at the back. You got the square camera module with triple camera setup and the flash, although in reality this phone only has one camera working and the other two are just aesthetics. In terms of build quality, we got plastic back and metal frame that surrounds the phone. I feel this phone is very light comparing it with the smaller Pixel 9. It only weighs 195 grams compared to 198 of Pixel 9, so this is even lighter than the more compact and smaller phones out there. And when we talk about the size, it's not in any way a small phone. It is as tall as Google Pixel 9 Pro XL and Galaxy S25 Ultra, so just imagine the weight of the phone. It's pretty light. The buttons and ports are pretty minimal. You have the power button and volume buttons on one side. You got nothing on top. You only have the SIM slot on the other side and charging port, microphone, and speaker at the bottom. Also, there's no mention of water and dust protection, so I would be really careful submerging this to water. Speaking of size, the screen of this phone is pretty huge. It is a 6.72-inch screen, 20:9 aspect ratio. I think this is an LCD screen with 391 ppi. It has 1080 by 2400 resolution. This screen can go as high as 500 nits. Again, not the brightest compared to the other mid-range phones, but with the price you pay, I think you have a really decent screen for a budget mid-range phone. Playing around with the wallpapers, I noticed that you got a really good colors on this LCD screen. You got a teardrop notch on top that also houses a 16-megapixel front camera. It is an IMX471 Sony sensor, which is really nice. Even though it only has 60Hz refresh rate like an iPhone, for some people who are using this mid-range phone for content consumption, connectivity, and other social apps, this will be good enough. On the left side of the phone houses the power button / fingerprint sensor, and the shape and the location reminds me of the camera control button of iPhone 16 Pro Max. Again, it's not on the exact location, but for someone who's not scrutinizing the phone and just looking at it on the first glance, this phone actually looks like an iPhone with that camera module and the power button. The fingerprint sensor is super reliable and fast. Also, this phone will ask you to register your face. So if you're doing a combination of fingerprint and face recognition, unlocking this phone is even faster and a pretty seamless experience. Now, aside from the design, I think the performance is the biggest selling point of this phone because again, with the price you pay, you are getting a solid MediaTek G85 coupled with 8 gigs of RAM that can be expanded to 20 gigs, borrowing 12 gigs from the internal storage of 256 gigs. The performance switching back and forth with the apps, opening of games and social media, scrolling to the home screen and just doing anything on the phone like a typical average user, this phone performs really well compared to the competition of the same price range. This phone also has Mali G52 MC2 GPU, which means you can play decent games on this phone like Mobile Legends, PUBG, Candy Crush, and other average to heavy games. We don't expect this phone will perform on the highest settings. I played Mobile Legends on this phone on medium to high settings, and it works just fine. So imagine using this phone and you're not a gamer, then this will be more than sufficient. And aside from the 256 gigs of internal storage, you can expand the memory through micro SD card that can reach up to 1 terabyte. So really in terms of storage, it's sky's the limit for this phone. Also on that same storage slot, you would see that there's 2 SIM card. This is a dual LTE SIM that supports VoLTE. Out of the box, it's running on Android 14, and the first time I opened this phone, it already received a security update, so that's good. This phone is running on stock Google experience like ones you would see on the Pixel phones, and I feel like this phone will receive multiple security updates directly from Google. I'm not expecting that this phone will get too many OS upgrades like let's say Pixel 8a or Galaxy A55 with 7 years of software support. Again, with the price you pay, you got Android 14 and will get multiple security updates, so you will be just fine. Navigating on the launcher, it feels really familiar, something you would see on a Pixel phone. If you swipe left, you will get Google Cards, swipe up, you will get all the apps, and swiping down, you will get all the notification with that familiar toolbar of Android 14. And speaking of software and OS, this phone is also running on Gemini AI for search. So in a way, this phone supports Android AI technology from Google, and you will experience the same kind of search experience as you would have on the more expensive devices. Now, the camera is one of the trickiest part of this review, so when I unbox it, I definitely read on the box one rear camera and one front camera, a 50 megapixel and 16 megapixel respectively. Surprisingly, when I open it, there's a triple camera setup at the back, so the only working sensor is the upper part and the two below are just for aesthetics. Now, in terms of rear camera performance, the main sensor is using a respectable SK Hynix 50 megapixel CMOS sensor. It does a pretty good job on daylight condition, good color accuracy and exposure. It can shoot full HD video. It can even do a 50 megapixel readout of the sensor. You have Pro mode, night shot, and portrait mode, again, like what other popular mid-range phones can offer. On the selfie camera, you have a Sony IMX471. It is a 16 megapixel sensor, and honestly, I think it looks so much better in terms of camera performance, both the images and videos. Some of the phones that are using the sensor are OnePlus 7 series to OnePlus 9 Pro, so those are flagship phones that offers the same sensor as Fossibot S2. The sensor though is capable of 1080p recording, but on this phone it can only shoot 720p resolution on video, which is not bad again considering the price. I feel like the video quality and image are pretty decent. Here I will give you some sample videos of the selfie and the rear camera. So this is the Fossibot S2 selfie video recording in 720p 30 fps. And we're switching to the main camera, 50 megapixel 1080p 30 fps. Which camera sensors are better, the selfie camera or the rear camera? This is the footage without EIS or electronic image stabilization. And this is the footage with EIS or electronic image stabilization. This is the 720p video recording on low light condition using the selfie camera IMX471. And we're switching to the rear camera. This is 1080p 30 fps. Using the 50 megapixel sensor. Obviously, when you have this type of budget phone that gives you good performance, decent camera, and good looking design, you're expecting that they would cut some corners on some areas. I think the biggest hit was the audio performance because you only have a regular speaker down firing on this phone. There's no mention of Dolby or stereo speaker, so I guess it's just a regular speaker here. I would give you a little bit of audio sample of the speaker.
This is Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and Vivo X200 Pro, both great camera phones, but which takes better? This is Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and Vivo X200 Pro, both great camera phones, but which takes better zoom?
Lastly, with the size, I feel like Fossibot will pack bigger battery on this phone, and yes, they did. It is a 5000 milliampere battery. This is not composite, I think it's lithium-ion battery, but the battery life is pretty good. It will not perform the same as those flagship phones with 3 to 4 nanometer processor. MediaTek G85 is a little bit bigger and power drainer that is 3 times as big as the flagship processor at 12 nanometer. But still, in terms of day-to-day use, this phone will last you 1 to 2 days depending on your usage. I find that if you use this like an average user, call, text, and social media, maybe watch a full movie and play Mobile Legends for 90 minutes, I would still probably get around 20% of battery life till bedtime. But one good thing about this phone is it also provides not just a power cable but also the wall charger. There's no fast charging technology on the phone, so you may need a little bit of time for you to charge this phone. But again, with everything it offers plus the wall charger, I think this phone was packaged really good. I think we have so many mid-range phones on the market today, but some of the more popular ones are getting more and more expensive just because of the technology they pack on those mid-range phones. They are becoming the new flagship phones today. This phone provides really good performance from the MediaTek G85 processor. You got a healthy RAM and storage configuration, decent camera, and great looking design. If you're in the hunt for a great mid-range phone with a flagship look, Fossibot S2 is a budget iPhone doppelganger.